Hey guys, this is Caleb with DSLR Video Shooter, and today we're going to be looking at a really cool rig system from Walimex Pro. This is a cage and rig system, and I'm really excited about this cage because it really brings some things to the table that we couldn't find outside of wooden camera gear, which, as you guys know, is very expensive stuff. So we're going to talk about the things I like, the things I didn't like about this cage. And what I love about it is while it's very similar to the wooden camera, it's pretty unique in its own respect. So here it is, and it has a similar design to the wooden camera in that we have an attachment at the cold shoe or hot shoe at the top of the camera, the bottom of the camera, and then we have an adjustable side. So unlike the wooden camera cage, this one actually has a sliding unit. So on the wooden camera, you have a rod you have to either swap out or extend. On this unit, you have 4 little screws here that you loosen, and this whole thing adjusts. And it has a ton of 1/4-20s all over. It's made of aircraft aluminum, anodized black aluminum. It looks good, it's really strong, and I've spent lots of time shooting with this. So here we have a Sony a7S, works great with this cage as well as other DSLRs, and this thing extends pretty high. Another feature I really liked was how easy it is to remove and then add a handle to any part of this rig. So you're given a little rail here that has 2 screws, so you can put this on the side if you wanted a side grip, and then you can also take apart the handle and attach that to the bottom. So if you wanted like a pistol grip, you could do that. You can obviously reverse it, and so you have the handle on the back or facing forward, which is great. Included with the cage, you get this nice cold shoe, which you can mount anywhere. It also has 2 screws, so it won't twist at all, which is fantastic. And then one of the coolest features about this cage, and something I really like and think was pretty smart, is that the quick release plate at the bottom, which can be removed, so you can put whatever plate you want on here, but it's a mini Manfrotto style plate. So you can take this and add it to something like this. You know, if you have a Manfrotto tripod, you could use that. This is a Manfrotto plate, and I can just take this whole thing and just slide it right onto the plate and lock it in place. So that's really cool, whereas wooden camera gear, you gotta use their plate or adapt that, which can be a little more expensive. And now I wanna talk about how it interfaces with the shoulder rig. This is a shoulder rig you can purchase separately, or you can purchase the entire kit. Cage by itself is $399, and then if you get the cage that comes with the entire shoulder rig system, you're looking at around $900. So pretty affordable stuff when you consider just the cage from one camera without an additional base plate costs you around double that. So it's a fantastic, fantastic setup. Instead of having a sliding base to attach the cage to the actual rig, they've engineered this so that this entire plate here just drops right onto the actual shoulder rig, and then you can tighten it down. So that's one of the things I didn't like about this, is on the wooden camera cage, you have a really nice locking sliding system. Whereas on this cage here, you actually have to hold the cage, loosen up a knob, and pop the cage off like that, so it doesn't slide in and lock easily. So putting the cage onto the actual shoulder rig can be a little finicky. And then the other thing I didn't like was, while you can use the plate that comes with the cage on a lot of Manfrotto tripod heads and it's compatible, it's not compatible with everything. So over here I've got my trusty, beat up, ancient Manfrotto BHDV monopod, and this thing will not fit on there. I've tried multiple times and it's just too wide. So it's not gonna work with that particular monopod. I can't speak for all monopods, but it has worked with my Benro and Manfrotto plates like this. So it's kind of hit or miss on some plates. So I'll try to get more info for you guys on that in the future. You have a couple different pieces that make this all come together. You have 2 pairs of rods, you have an offset, then you have the handles up front, which are rosettes, and you can adjust them. One of the other things I didn't like on the actual shoulder rig was that when you attach these handles here, these are rosette handles, but they're not standard. So you couldn't really mix and match these. So that's a little thing, might bother some of you. It's really not that big of a deal though, especially since this whole rig is so affordable. These are really strong. I really like how these are put together. And then you also have the actual plate that lets you attach the cage to the rig, And then on the bottom of that, you have lots of mounting options. So you could throw another plate on here. This whole thing could slide right onto the actual tripod. On the rear, you see we have these little foam shoulder pad units that slide right onto the rods. And these are nice because one giant shoulder pad can really run into other things on your rods, whereas these guys you can mix and match. So if I wanted to get rid of this whole unit, this whole offset unit, and have a really compact shoulder setup, I could put one of these in front of the camera and one behind, and then when I have the whole thing on here, it's a nice compact little shoulder rig. So it's a great little system. All the knobs are ratcheting knobs, which is very nice to have because some manufacturers don't include those. So I actually talked to these guys, the Walimex guys, while I was at NAB, and we talked at length about manufacturing. And a lot of people take for granted how much work goes into actually manufacturing this. You know, it's not just one guy in his basement putting this together. It's a team of people. There's hours, there's salaries involved, and there's also patents and a bunch of other stuff. So they can't just steal whatever they want and throw it together like some people do. And they also have to think about manufacturing. So little things like how the actual cage attaches to the shoulder rig. They saved a lot of money by using this system as opposed to a locking sliding system. So they're transferring those savings to you guys and getting you a cage that is a lot more affordable than the wooden camera cage, but it's also something you just can't find anywhere else. So I get a lot of complaints by people just whining about how expensive wooden camera gear is, and even this cage when I shared it on the website. And the reality is, you know, if you're not happy with it, go out and find something else. And if you look, you're not going to find a cage like this out there. It's a great cage. I like it a lot, and I actually like how minimal it is and small. The wooden camera is a little bulkier, and don't get me wrong, the wooden camera is fantastic. It has a lot of strengths. It's an animal, and it looks absolutely beautiful. But this thing is much more economical, and it's smaller. Even the handle, it looks kind of small, but it's actually the perfect size. It doesn't get in the way, but at the same time, it's big enough to, you know, actually use and manhandle, which is fantastic. So I've been using this a ton as my second camera's cage, and really like it. And I also really like how the actual side turns into a handle, and it's a lot more usable than the wooden camera rod holding the rod. So this is really nice, even with all these accessories on the side. While we're talking about accessories, you can add on a couple things to either the rig and or the cage. One of these things that I really like is this cable protection, is what they call it. And this attaches directly to the side of the cage, and it's a very flexible system for keeping your HDMI cable locked in place and really, really tight and strong. The other accessory I really liked was the lens support that they offer. Lens supports are pretty expensive, and this one is a little expensive at around $99, but it's very simple. It gets out of the way, and you can see how small this is. A lot of these units are really bulky, and you run out of room for a follow focus or, you know, other gear. So very simple, very strong, and a great addition to the actual rig. So in the end, this is kind of an intermediate system that is much more affordable than wooden camera gear. You're gonna spend a little more than you would on cheaper stuff like Jag 35. So I highly recommend this cage. You can pick it up at B&H. They've just recently got into the US market. I'm picking one up myself, and I think it is a really strong contender when it comes to quality and comparing it to other brands out there. You can find links to all the different parts we've talked about today below this video at DSLRvideoshooter.com. Stay tuned for more gear reviews as well as a bunch of tutorials. I'm finishing up a bunch of reviews and really looking forward to getting into some tutorials again, which I really miss doing. So stay tuned for that stuff on the site, and I will see you guys online.